The Story of Civilization, Part 2, The Life of Greece, being a history of Greek civilization from the beginnings and of civilization in the Near East, from the death of Alexander to the Roman conquest, with an introduction on the prehistoric culture of Crete by Durant. Chapter 20, Letters and Arts in the 4th Century, Section 6, Scopas and Lysippus. Scopas played Byron to Phidias's Milton and Praxiteles' Keats. We know nothing about his life except through his works, which are the real biography of any man. But even of his works we know none with certainty. The stocky and pugnacious heads of the statues that are attributed to him are of the copies that are ascribed to his originals, stamp him as a man of passionate individuality and force. At Tagia, as we have seen, he served both architect and sculptor, showing a versatility and power unsurpassed in all the centuries between Phidias and Michelangelo. Excavations have found only a few fragments of a pediment, chiefly 2 badly damaged heads, marked by a brachiocephalic roundness and a moody, distant look, which are typical of Scopas's work, together with a battered and masculine figure of Atalanta. Strangely like these remains is the Meleager head in the Villa Medici at Rome. Here again are the full cheeks, the sensual lips, and brooding eyes, the slightly projecting ridge of the forehead above the nose, and the half-disheveled curly hair. Perhaps it is a Roman copy of Meleager, set up by Scopas as part of a group representing the Caledonian hunt. Another head in the Metropolitan Museum at New York is almost surely by Scopas, are copied from him, blunt and powerful, and yet handsome and intelligent. It is one of the most characterful remains of ancient statuary. At Elis, says Pausanias, Scopas cast a brazen statue of the Pandemian Aphrodite sitting on a brazen he-goat. At Sicaan, he made a marble Heracles, of which perhaps we have a Roman copy in the Lansdowne House at London. The body, a relapse into Polycliton stylized musculature, the head small and round as usual, the face almost as refined as in Praxiteles. He paused long enough at Megara, Argos, Thebes, and Athens to make statues that Pausanias saw there 5 centuries later, and perhaps he had a hand in rebuilding the sanctuary at Epidaurus. Crossing the Aegean, he made an Athena and a Dionysus for Cnidus, and played a major role in the sculptures of the mausoleum. Going north, he carved one of the column drums of the 3rd temple at Ephesus. As a side note to something that's not terribly relevant, is you really already have the 3rd temple built for the Israelites. It's just not what some of them expected, per se. At Pergamon, he made a colossal seated Ares. At Crassa, in the Trad, he set up an Apollo, Smintheus, to scare mice from the fields. He contributed to the fame of Samothraca with an Aphrodite, and in far-off Byzantium, he carved a Bacchante, which the Dresden Albertinum may have a Roman copy in the raging Maenad. The marble statuette, although only 18 inches high, is worthy of a great artist, powerful in figure, magnificent in drapery, unique in pose, alive with anger, and beautiful from every side. Pliny refers to many other statues by Scopas, which in his day stood in the palaces of Rome, and Apollo probably copied in the Apollo Gytherodos of the Vatican, a group of Poseidon, Thetis, Achilles and Nereids, an admirable piece of workmanship, says Pliny, even if it had taken a whole life to complete it, and a naked Aphrodite, sufficient to establish the renown of any city. All in all, these works, if a judgment may be based upon a few hypothetical survivals, suggest for Scopas a rank very near Praxiteles. Here is an originality without extravagance, strength without brutality, and a dramatic portrayal of impulse, emotion, and mood without disfigurement by any strained intensity. Praxiteles loved beauty. Scopas was drawn to character. Praxiteles wished to reveal the grace and tenderness of womanhood, the buoyant health and gaiety of youth. Scopas chose to portray the pains and tragedies of life and ennobled them with artistic representation. Perhaps if we had more of his works, we should place him second only to Phidias. Lysippus of Sicyon began as a humble artisan in brass. He longed to be an artist, but could not afford a teacher. He took courage, however, when he heard Eupompus, the painter, announce that for his part he would imitate nature herself, not any artist. Lysippus thereupon turned his face to the study of living beings and formed a new canon of sculptural proportions to replace the stern rule of Polyclitus. He made the legs longer and the head shorter, extended the limbs into the third dimension, and gave the figure more vitality and ease. His Apoxamenos is a vagrant son of the Diadomenos. Polyclitus is athlete, bound a fillet above his brow. Lysippus scrapes the oil and dust from his arm with a bronze strigil and achieves a greater slenderness and grace. More attractive and alive, if we judge from the marble copy in the Delphi Museum, was his portrait of Agias, a young Thessalian nobleman. Once free, Lysippus struck out into new fields, abandoning the type for the individual, the conventional for the impressionistic. Other artists, says Lysippus, and a sentence that would have pleased Manet, made men as they were, while he made them as they appeared. And almost creating portrait sculpture among the Greeks. Philip interrupted his wars and amours to sit for Lysippus. Alexander was so pleased with the artist's bust of him that he made him the official royal sculptor, as he had given the exclusive right to Apelles to paint his likeness and to Protellus to engrave it upon gems. Some of the finest sculptural remains of the 4th century BCE are anonymous. The bronze statue of a youth found in the sea near Marathon, an ancient copy of a 4th century Hermes of Andros and a modest, pensive, delicate Hagiaa found at Tegea, all three in the Athens Museum, and in the Boston Museum from Chios, a profoundly beautiful head of a girl. This lovely head, which has been used as a symbol and first illustration for this volume, was stolen from the little museum at Tegea, and after 9 years' search, was found in a granary in the village of Arcadia by Alexander Philadelphus, the gracious curator of the National Museum at Athens. Both the subject and the period are uncertain, but the Praxitelian style seemed to date it in the 4th century, and Philadelphus considers it the pearl of the National Museum. To this period, so far as we can make out, belong most of the Neopede figures that came to Rome from Asia Minor in the days of Augustus and are now scattered among the museums of Europe, and perhaps to this age must be assigned the originals of 3 Aphrodites in the Praxitelian tradition: the hesitant Venus of Capua in the Naples Museum, the Vatican's crouching Venus, and the modest Venus of Arles in the loop. Greater than these, in mature beauty and quiet depth of feeling, is the seated Demeter found at Cnidus in 1858, and now among the noblest figures in the British Museum. The subject is uncertain. Perhaps it is merely the finest funerary piece that has come down to us from antiquity. Perhaps it represents the corn goddess as a Mater Dolorosa. And, of course, I mean like barley and stuff, not what we now typically mean when we say the word corn. Slightly mourning the rape of Persephone. The emotion is conveyed with classic restraint. All the tenderness of motherhood and its silent resignation are in the face and eyes. This and the Hermes, and not those ingratiating Aphrodites, are the living sculptural masterpieces of the 4th century Greece. And as their sense of religion, in any sense, kind of slipped, you saw, of course, their art styles slip. And it became about rather than grouping together and things are, yeah, you're hired to do the work and all that, it became the sort of competition that people hope for as artists here, that you're going to get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars for your paintings, while you're still alive. But does it make some great religious statement or confirm something for a church or something like this? Probably not. And the richer it is, the more likely that it tends not to do something great as far as that.